Welcome to Scene Invaders. My name is Tanner. The A team is busy, so you get the B team. A stands for best. And today I'll be going over It. Welcome to Derry, episode 2. Going over some general thoughts on the show, my impressions, theories, a couple of deep dives, and where I think some characters in the show are going. And right off the bat, baby, we have the mutant bat baby. And Jesus, this scene does not get easier to watch. I know we were all thinking in the first episode we were getting some sort of losers club, but we're going to get the same beats as It Chapter 1 and 2. No, Andy Muschietti is not going to retrace those steps. Episode 1 proved that every character is open for grabs and no one is safe, except, of course, for Dick Halloran's, unless Pennywise can morph into Jack Nicholson. A little bit of a side note here. I was today years old when I found out that Dick Halloran actually survives the events of The Shining in the novel. So everything I talk about with this show is going to be based off of my knowledge of the movies and some other things that I've read online and just my brain going off the rails on some tangents. Let's begin. Full disclosure, I had to watch this episode twice. The first time just for my own enjoyment, and the second time to do a little bit more research, make my notes, put this video together. And speaking of this show, it has blown away my expectations by every metric: plot, character, dialogue, the set, the script, the pacing. Everything is on point with this. It is a very well polished show. Look at the set designs and the cars. Where do you get so many cars from like the 50s? Is there a 1950s car rental place? Do they have an agreement with Cuba where they'll just loan them some cars and send them on back? And then you see that one beat up old vehicle at the end, which I believe is a Ford Model B. I'll go over that a little bit more at the ending, what that one's about. Their attention to detail for the time that it's set in is phenomenal. I absolutely love it. I love watching this show. It's so well put together. And something else that I want to address about the show, the child actors. They are absolutely crushing their performances. I was a little bit worried going into this thing. Sometimes you get child actors in shows and they're a little wooden, they're a little off. But they are all on point, especially Amanda Christine as Ronnie. She is just selling very deep, challenging, rich scenes. The anger and frustration that she can portray is absolutely amazing, especially coming from a 16-year-old. This kid is fantastic. I would not be surprised to learn that she receives awards or accolades for her performance in this show. So now getting back into the show, we are in Derry with Major Hanlin, and his family has just arrived. And I just want to say that I love these scenes. The stuff that's in between the terror of Pennywise tormenting these people is what's going to make this a good show. This is what gets us invested in these characters. We start developing feelings and attachments, rooting for people. We know their wants, their desires, their hopes, their needs, their fears. And then for them to get ripped apart by a demonic clown or torture suffer in some sort of way, that's what's going to make you feel. It's very easy to just make a slash or a horror thing where people are getting tortured and mutilated. Like, oh, ho, hum. Yeah, that's, I guess that's the thing. You don't care. Why should we care about these people? Scenes like this, where they're interacting just a back and forth and you see the family dynamic, that's what makes you care. So tip of the hat to Jason Fuchs, I think I'm saying that right, and Brad Kane, and of course Andy Muschietti and his wife for crafting excellent scenes. Quickly address is the interaction between the Hanlins and this lady walking by.
Good afternoon.
Now, it's not overt racism. It's more like a begrudging acceptance. Is this the result of an eldritch horror from beyond the stars slowly infecting the townspeople to make them standoffish? Or is it the fact that it's 1962 in Derry, Maine, and Lyndon B. Johnson has yet to sign in the Civil Rights Act into existence? I think that a lot of stuff that we would want to say, oh, this is just the way Derry is because they have a giant spider monster living underneath them, could also be easily chalked up to the social norms of the time. So it's going to be really interesting trying to differentiate which is what. So now we're going to move over to the school, and look, it's Marge trying to fit in by belittling other kids. Again, I don't think this is the influence of some sort of eldritch horror. Kids are assholes to other kids all the time. And speaking of eldritch horrors, what is going on with Principal Dunleavy's hair? I really hope this is used as some sort of freakish monster in future episodes. Like, that hair has got to be fake. Anyways, as Dunleavy's talking over the PA system, I'm just getting foreshadowing that this PA system is going to be used to terrorize a kid or two in future episodes of the show. Just listen to it.
No. Was an uplifting evening of prayer and remembrance.
Creepy PA overtone, and that we actually do see a PA system being used later on this episode to terrorize a child. So why am I bringing this scene up? We start seeing kids bullying other kids. Is it happening at a rate that's on par with the time, or is this Pennywise's influence? I don't know, but I suspect that the bully kids are going to come into play later on. We do know that Pennywise does target kids who are being bullied and belittled. So it makes him kind of a big giant piece of shit for doing that. He's already going after people in pain, people who are suffering. He's not going after the cool kids or the cruel ones, usually. It's very rare. I think he leaves those ones alone because they help soften up the other kids. They will pick on the weaker kids, making them more prone to his terrorizing them. Spicens the meat up. Gross. This scene of where Will is walking into the class, super creepy. All the heads turning, really malevolent, not like curious kid stuff. And then when the chair gets pulled out from him, I just want to point out, is that a clown picture? Right there. Look at that. That is a clown. You'll find all these episodes have tons of Easter eggs, way too many for me to talk about. All right, jumping over to one of my favorite characters, Major Leroy Hanlin. Pretty sure his first name's Leroy. He's in Colonel Fuller's office, and he's being told that Masters was one of the guys that jumped him in the last episode. Full disclosure, folks, when I was watching episode 1, I thought that this is going to be some sort of test. It's a loyalty thing. There is no way that a base like this would just have 3 random guys infiltrate it, Russian spies, whatever. And then they show that as Masters, and I thought, that's too obvious. This has got to be a test. And we will find out later that the whole thing was set up. General Shaw arranged it as a type of test for Major Hanlin, but it wasn't a loyalty test. It was a test to figure out if he truly is a man without fear due to an injury that he sustained in combat. We also have this bit of foreshadowing.
One day when I'm telling my grandkids that I stared into the face of death, I want to have all the details.
Jumping over to Charlotte Hanlin, walking around Derry, getting used to the area, and she's still getting those looks. Again, probably just the cultural norms at the time. Not saying that's good. That's just the way that people were. And then she walks by Chekhov's alley. And again, the camera lingers on this way too long. The music is eerie. I know that this plays into it chapter 1 and 2. The Losers Club do their pack there. Stuff happens in this alley. But for this episode, it might be foreshadowing something. I'm not sure what it's foreshadowing. And speaking of foreshadowing, quick question for you guys, and let me know in the comments if I'm wrong here, but I thought that Major Hanlin's wife's name was Shirley in the movies, in the books, anywhere that I looked. The only name that came up previous to this show was his wife being named Shirley. Now, is this a continuity error from Andy Muschietti and the other showrunners? I just think that no one would notice. Personally, I don't think that anything in the show is done accidentally. I think it is all very intentional, and this might be foreshadowing that Charlotte might not be making it, and Major Hanlin remarries a woman named Shirley later. Let me know in the comments what you think. So who else thought that Charlotte was going to get egged here? Okay, so apparently the only thing that the people of Derry dislike more than black folks moving into their neighborhood is a giant statue of Paul Bunyan. And something else I just want to point out, I really dislike this woman.
The other grand dames of Derry, that statue has got to go.
The actress sells it so well. Oh, I and the other great dames of Derry won't stand for it. I absolutely hate her guts, and I hope that old lady dies. Oh, look, more foreshadowing.
Stan Kirsch. Kids call me Stanley Cleaver.
Yeah, I'm sure a guy with the nickname Stanley Cleaver isn't going to come back and haunt these children somehow. With regard to Pennywise, do you think in between eating children and torturing people, he's just in his lair, chain smoking, listening to Cure? These goddamn kids, man. Nothing scare him anymore, man. I just gotta. No one knows what I go through. I think it would be an interesting plot twist to find out that he actually does assume regular human guises, embeds himself into the town. I think I heard mention once that the librarian in It Chapter 1 is actually Pennywise in disguise, might always have been the librarian in disguise. I would really love to see that it gets revealed that Stanley Kirsch, Stanley Butcher, Stanley Cleaver, Butcher Cleaver, I'm going to mess that up repeatedly, is actually Pennywise, has always been Pennywise, just a random thought. I have nothing to base this off of right now. Except, Stanley did acknowledge that the other kids were beating that kids when people were walking by, not even looking, like they couldn't even see it. Charlotte calls it out, and Stanley says, yeah, boys will be boys. He can see what's going on. He's dismissive about it, but he can actually see it. And so when Charlotte's running over, now people are actually paying attention to her. Is it because of Pennywise's demonic, eldritch horror from beyond the stars power manifesting and making people act out in those ways? Or is it because of the social norms of the time? That's one thing that I like about the scene and setting is you don't really know. Everyone's just kind of staring at her, including Stanley Kirsch. Something else that goes towards my theory of Pennywise is secretly Stanley Kirsch is look at this reflection. Just look at it. Would you look at that right there? That kind of looks like a clown's face from this angle. Maybe it's the lighting. Again, I don't think anything in this show is accidentally done. I might just be going off the rails, seeing things where there are no things there. Again, let me know in the comments. And before I drop this Kirsch angle, tangent, rant, runaway thought that I have, I just want to point out that in It Chapter 2, the old lady that I think it's Beverly, that Beverly goes to visit, thinking that the place belonged to her father. It turned out to be a witch, which was actually Pennywise in disguise. Her last name was Kirsch as well. This just could be an assumed form that Pennywise has. Again, the director of It Chapter 1 and 2, Andy Muschietti, huge influence, executive producer, helped them make the show, helped them write the show. I think that they are purposely tying these things together. Stanley Kirsch, this other older lady in the future, is it his daughter, or is it just Pennywise always assumes an identity with the last name Kirsch? Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I'm going to bring up the editing quite a bit during my reviews of this stuff because I absolutely love every aspect of this show so far. And we can see it here. They do an audio match cut, and it's subtle.
Don't tell me boys will be boys. How about boys will be kind?
But it carries over from the one scene into the next scene. And that's where we see that Charlotte's back at home. They're having dinner, and we get a little bit of a backstory on them. We find out that the Hanlins have moved from Shreveport, Louisiana, mostly due to avoid fallout from Charlotte's civil rights activism at the time. It's hinted that there were some direct threats made against them. What happened with the activists in Shreveport, Louisiana after 1962? It does not get better. What's worse, moving from Shreveport into Derry, or if they stayed in Shreveport to deal with the fallout of the civil rights, the anti-civil rights movement. Speaking of things getting a lot worse, we are now back with Ronnie, who is being singled out by it with, let me check my notes here, another horrifying birthing vagina monster. Yeah, that's That's what I wrote. If I had a nickel for every time this show weaponized birth with some sort of horrific monster thing, I'd have 2 nickels, which is arguably not a lot of nickels, but it's still kind of shocking and really disgusting that it's happened twice now in just as many episodes. So Ronnie starts off underneath her blanket, and then all of a sudden it becomes, I thought it was a heart at first, like that she was being entombed in a heart, because you can hear do. And then it starts filling up, and I until she ripped out of the stomach of her own mother, I didn't realize that she was in a womb drowning in amniotic fluid. This scene is actually my second least favorite scene. Like it's horrifying to watch. I love it, but I absolutely hated having to watch it twice. I watched it twice for you people. I watched it for you. So she tears out of her mother's womb, and her mom's actually dressed in her wedding gown, which kind of makes sense when you think about it. If Ronnie's mother died giving birth to Ronnie, then all that Ronnie would have known of her mother is the photos that are around the house. And I had to go back and watch this from the first episode and this episode. They're mostly wedding pictures, which kind of makes sense. Ronnie's mother would have died 15, 16 years prior to 1962. So they wouldn't have had a whole lot of photos back then. They would have saved that for special events, like, say, a wedding. So she only knows what her mother looks like through those photos. It would make no sense to have her mother show up in a dress or something that she's unfamiliar with. It'd be harder to recognize. And Pennywise acts on your fears. It knows what you know somehow. Its powers or whatever it wants. That's it. Its powers or whatever it wants. So it uses her knowledge of her mother and her understanding of her mother and weaponizes it against her. And I swear to God, if we get one more weird vagina birthing monster attack, I'm going to keep watching this show. It's great, but still, goddamn. I want to diverge a little bit regarding this scene and ask you a question. Pennywise's powers, what do you think they are? We know he can warp reality. He can clearly read thoughts. He can mimic voices. He can fast travel to wherever he wants, but then other times it doesn't. I don't know if it's just lazy or arrogant. It's really inconsistent with the powers. This scene, for example, if Ronnie gets yanked in to the womb, would she be dead or dragged into, like, the deadlights, brought into the sewer system? Is this Freddy Krueger rules?
If you die in the dream, you die in real life.
I'm leaning more towards Pennywise needs to be more physically present in your location in order to warp and manipulate reality, but it can do some type of illusion casting that, if you buy into it, becomes very, very real. So again, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments. It's, at this stage, very inconsistent. He basically has Legion powers from Marvel. It's Legion. He's got every power, and he's nuts. So I will say that I think Pennywise is able to block out any of the screaming, the noises that were being made from anyone in the area. Just so kind of a localized illusion or reality warping thing. And the reason I believe this is this one part here, when Ronnie screams, you can see the scream, like, it dies off. You can't really hear it. And then her dad burst in. Ronnie was in the bed. Now she's against the wall. So she was moving. Even if you accept that this was an illusion or reality warping, she moved. If it was just purely illusion that was in her head, she would have still stayed in bed, but she moved out of the bed. I think she bumped against the wall, and that loud crash is what alerted her dad and her grandmother to her room. And then they break open the door, breaks the spell, breaks what's going on. Or it wasn't ready to devour Ronnie yet because she is not truly afraid. She was not frozen with fear because she escaped from the womb monster, the monster of the womb, by chewing through her own umbilical cord. which again, tip of the hat to that actress. Could you imagine reading that scene and you're like, okay, yeah, mother here, and I chew through the umbilical cord. What do you think they made that out of? Because that looked real, and she had to chew through that thing for all that she was worth. So we now get to my favorite character of the show. Yes, I said that Major Hanlin is one of my favorite characters, but Dick Halloran has got to be my favorite character. He is so cool. I don't know what it is. He's just so self-assured. Even in The Shining, that same self-assuredness, like he knows everything that's going on. We find out that Dick's out for a couple of drinks with the boys when the chief of police walks in. And we could see that the chief's getting hassled by a couple of people to pin the crimes on Ronnie's dad. And I actually like that he says,
Got no evidence, and he's got an alibi. This is America.
this is a guy that is principled to a point. He's not going to break these established rules, but he's not above having the only black patrons in the bar kicked out because they're being too noisy for him. So again, this is what we call nuance.
In bird culture, this is considered a dick move.
Also, I just want to ask, let me know in the comments, do you think Dick used the shinin?
You mean shining?
Shh! You want to get sued?
Or is just really observant and saw that the chief of police looked over, saw them, started talking to the bartender, and just kind of saw the writings on the wall and we need to go? Or is he just Professor X saying everyone's thoughts and is like, okay, we're done here? You gotta remember, this was pre-1964, so asking them to leave like that isn't against any sort of established law. It's 100% wrong. So Dick and his buddies leave and they go find themselves some good old-fashioned moonshine and get sauced to the gills. And then we find out that Dick is afforded special privileges. They basically let him come and go as he pleases. And that plays into the next scene that we cut to, where we go to this Indiana Jones-style dig site. Colonel Fuller's walking through. We can see that it's being observed by what appears to be a Native American tribe. Then Fuller's having a conversation with Dick. He's not buying into his weird shenanigans, thinks that he's fooled people. And now we find out that they are looking for something. We'll find out later that what they're trying to find is beacons that will lead them to a type of fear-inducing device, which is probably 100% Pennywise. But what they are actively trying to look for in this site is a beacon. Hopefully, once they get all the beacons, it leads them to the device, and their intent is to use it against the Soviets. General Shaw explains all this later. But then we leave the scene on my favorite match cut of all time. I mean, look at this. I'm not a big fan of eating applesauce, but I'm even less of a fan of it now. And that match cut takes us to the cafeteria for more of that sweet, sweet, sweet character development that I love so much. We have Ronnie and Lilly having a discussion and gets a little heated. And again, the editing, the sound choices, everything that they decide on the show works so well. We've got Marge and these Patty and these other girls doing this patty cake thing in the background, and it's just adding to the tension of the conversation, and it keeps going faster and faster, and I am doing a horrible job of imitating it. We get this delivery.
And I'm sure we both know that's some bullshit!
Wow, again, this kid's 16 years old. 16 years old and able to dig deep and sell a line like that. And this scene also sets up a future scene where Ronnie and Will meet up in detention. He gets sent there because he's falsely accused of throwing a stink bomb. She's sent there for this cursing. They just have a back and forth dialogue that I find a little bit endearing. And as much as I want everyone to survive in this show, I don't think Ronnie's going to make it. I'll explain that in a little bit. So meanwhile, Charlotte decides that she's got to fill up the place that they moved into with some furniture and goes to Secondhand Rose, Secondhand Clothes, where she meets the shop owner, played by Kimberly Norris Guerrero. The jewelry, judging by the earrings that she's wearing with the feather stuff and the fact that the actress herself has played a Native American she actually is Native American. She is part of the Colville Indian tribe. I'm going to take a wild guess here and assume that Rose is going to fall into the trope of that wise elder who is going to dispense knowledge and not have much in the way of character development outside of the whole, my people have been fighting Pennywise for generations, and here's the ritual of Chud, and here's what we do, and blah, 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 blah. It would be nice to have a little bit more character development and some backstory on her as a person outside of a trope. But I don't think with 6 episodes left, we're going to get that. Her character is just there to heavy hand down some exposition, and that's about it. Andy Muschietti can kind of get away with that on the showrunners, because they did set up in It Chapter 1 and 2 that the Shakopia tribe, I can never pronounce this properly. They've been dealing with Pennywise for generations, going back before there even was a Derry, so they would have knowledge on it. So again, the setup is there. I hope they give her character a little bit more development. All right, guys, I want to jump back to the Will and Ronnie thing, and after seeing these two meet, I had to look up who Mike Hanlin's parents were. And I was hoping that it would be like Ronnie and Will Hanlin. It is, it's not. Mike Hanlin's mother's name is not Ronnie. It's Jessica.
Don't play with me now. I know you're there. Veronica Grogan. Veronica Grogan.
So this isn't the first time that we've kind of met a character with the name Veronica. And I say kind of because in preparation of watching the show, I rewatched It Chapter 1 and 2. Maybe it's my ADD brain finding connections where there are none. It probably is. But look at this scene from It Chapter 1.
Who are you?
So that's such a random name to come from the pipe. The other two names have last names. We've seen one of them. He was a antagonist bully that ended up getting clown gobbled. And the other one, I believe, was on a missing persons poster. But this one's like, Veronica. And it's whispered in a way that you can't really tell. You know it's a girl, but you can't really tell whose voice it belongs to. Andy Muschietti directed It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and then had a huge impact, executive producer, helped them write this series. It Chapter 1 wasn't released until 2017. Welcome to Derry did not go into development until 2022. Is it possible that this is just a coincidence, or that Andy Muschietti inserted the name Veronica into a movie in 2017 on the off chance that in 2022 he would start developing a show to be released for 2025, where he then can create a main character with the name Veronica, telling us from the It Chapter 1 movie that Veronica that we're seeing in Welcome to Derry will not make it. She's in the pipes. That is the same Veronica. Folks, I think Veronica's cooked. I don't think she's making it, and I think this is a clue right here. Which, if that's the case, and if it is intentional, then Andy Muschietti is playing 5-dimensional chess while the rest of us are playing macaroni necklaces. The fact that someone could think that far out in advance and that many layers boogles my mind. So then we come to the scene where Chief Bowers is pressuring Lilly into changing or accepting the possibility Ronnie's dad could have been present for the murders, which she knows that he wasn't. She saw the entire thing, and at first I was really upset. I thought Lilly was kind of being a piece of shit, but after a couple of minutes, I was thinking about it. This kid, 1, had her dad sliced up at a pickle factory by machines. 2, the event where these kids died in front of her was a giant demonic bat baby monster, and she literally came out of that holding the severed arm of a child. She's been traumatized. People have made false confessions exposed to far, far less trauma. It's a thing that happens, so I'm trying not to hold it too much against the character. She's being exploited. And now she's being threatened with going back to the third worst experience of her life, which is nuts at the stage where you're a 15, 16-year-old girl that you've had 3 major traumatic events happen. Your dad dies, you're committed to an insane asylum, and you just saw an eldritch horror from beyond the stars flying through a movie theater and eat your friends. That's a lot. So she is going to say whatever she can to avoid going back to Juniper Hill. Unfortunately, Lily's bullshit leads to Hank being arrested, and Hank's mama saying this very meta dope line.
I'm ashamed. Feeding on other people's pain. Go home!
And then Ronnie goes straight to the source of her frustration to take her anger out on Lily, because Ronnie ain't no coward. This is what I like about Ronnie, is she is confrontational. She will not back down. She has an inherent bravery that I suspect will embolden those around her, which is probably why she's being targeted by Pennywise, because he can't have that type of person lending strength to his food supply, basically. So she's going to be targeted because she don't frighten easily, and she has inherent leadership qualities. And now we're back with Major Hanlin, and before we get into the scene, I just want to point out that November 11th, Remembrance Day, is around the corner. I myself am a Canadian veteran of several conflicts, so I thought it was important to point out what it is that he's wearing, what he was awarded. For the top medal, we have the Distinguished Flying Cross. The DFC is reserved for acts of valor and achievement that are exceptional and heroic, but not to the same degree as the Medal of Honor. Just a guess based on racial practices from this time up until the filing of the Shaw Report in the 90s, but downgrading or straight up not recommending troops for awards and commendations based on the color of their skin was a de facto rule. I suspect that whatever earned him the Distinguished Flying Cross probably should have been a Medal of Honor award. Now, the top row on the left, we have the American Korean Service Medal, with what appears to be an indicator in the middle that he's been in more than one of the 13 campaigns that occurred during the Korean War. Top center, we have the Legion of Merit. The Legion of Merit, the LOM, is a military award of the United States Armed Forces, which is given for exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service and achievements. Possible issues with Major Hanlin's wearing of this ribbon is the LOM is number 7th on the list of precedents for wearing of ribbons, and the Distinguished Flying Cross is 8. Being a bit of a nerd here, but the LOM should be on the top spot then. If anyone's even more of a medals nerd, please let me know in the comments below. The top right, we have the Air Medal. This is a U.S. military award for heroic action or meritorious achievement during aerial flight. Major Hanlin's medal has an oak cluster on it, indicating he received this award at least more than once. Middle left, we have the Purple Heart, awarded to those injured or killed while in combat. The cluster in the middle means he was awarded this more than once. Middle center, we have the National Defense Service Medal, U.S. Armed Forces who served during any one of 4 specified periods of armed conflict or national emergency from June 27th, 1950 through December 31st, 2020. Combat or in theater services is not a requirement for the award. Middle right, you have the United Nations Service Medal, awarded by the UN to recognize participation in joint operations and peacekeeping missions. The first one was actually created an award for those who participated in the Korean War. Bottom left, the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, the AFEM. The medal is awarded to members of the U.S. Armed Forces who, after July 1st, 1958, participated in U.S. military operations, U.S. operations in direct support of the United Nations, or U.S. operations of assistance for friendly foreign nations. This one was created in 1961, so it's feasible that Major Hanlin would be issued it before being posted to Derry. He would have had the opportunity to deploy one last time somewhere to get this one. Bottom center, you have the Silver Star Medal. This one is the 3rd highest military decoration for valor in combat. The Silver Star Medal is awarded primarily to members of the U.S. Armed Forces for gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States. Bottom row right, the Republic of Korea Presidential Unit Citation. This is a military unit award given by the government of the Republic of Korea that may be presented to South Korean and foreign military units for outstanding performance in defense of the Republic of Korea. In recognition of Allied military service to South Korea during the Korean War, all United States military departments were authorized with the unit award for that period. So there you go. That was his medals. I had to track down a lot of stuff to find that out. It took a couple of hours. I felt it was worth doing the due diligence for that. Major Hanlon's got some crazy stories. You could probably make a whole prequel show about his service in time and what he did in Korea. Back to the show, we have Major Hanlin going to confront Masters about why he thinks that he was not in the room the night that he was attacked, and he bases this off of his experience with a very shitty pistol. And I chuckle, I found it funny because in the military, we used a Browning 9mm, kind of around from the same era, and that pistol was a piece of shit. This thing would have stoppages all the time. It was kind of hard to load. The magazines would often fail. So again, I thought it was comical that he had just a gut feeling that his instinct was right based on poor weapons designs. He had a hunch. He was right. He was like, yeah, okay. It was like he was buttering toast the entire time. Yes, Masters is a racist piece of shit.
But this isn't the South, and we don't brook that kind of shit here.
But he's not responsible for trying to murder him. Major Hanlin successfully baits Masters into loading the weapon, or trying to load the weapon, and attack him with it. And he is correct. Masters is not proficient with that pistol. He then goes to General Shaw to disclose what he's found out, and informed him that he is going to go and file a report in order to just get to the bottom of what's going on. And that's when General Shaw spills the beans, tells Hanlin that it was a test. I think we all thought it was a loyalty test, those of us that suspected that it was a test. We didn't think that it was a test to determine if Hanlin is actually a
man without fear.
So General Shaw needed to figure out if Major Hanlin truly is a man without fear, because they are trying to find a weapon that will be used against the Soviets. And this weapon is some sort of super fear-inducing thing. They need to track down beacons. The beacons are going to lead to the weapon. It's Pennywise. It's got to be Pennywise. I don't think that there is some type of fear gun out there that only Hanlin can use. I think they're going to discover that it is a demonic eldritch horror from beyond the stars that pretends it's a clown. I'm actually really excited to see where this goes, because we know, well, if you remember the movie, he does show up, and of course in the books, we know that Leroy Hanlin will survive. And I'm hoping that we get a showdown between Pennywise and a man who cannot feel fear, which brings me back to my whole, this is why Will is going to be targeted by Pennywise, because Pennywise will not be able to affect Major Hanlin. But as we all know, Pennywise sometimes acts through intermediaries, like he did with Bowers' kid. In It Chapter 2, went to the insane asylum, affected him, got him to attack the Losers Club. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? Is there going to be a standoff between a man who can't feel fear and the embodiment of fear? And do you think Pennywise is going to try to either attack Leroy Hanlin through his son Will, or is he going to use someone else and manipulate them to attack Major Hanlin directly? Let me know in the comments. Now we're jumping back over to Lilly, who's going out grocery shopping, and she's getting mean mugged by this very pervy looking bag boy. And that PA system came on, and as soon as it came on, I just went, for God's sakes. We are going to get Pennywise's voice. They're going to use this PA system to mess with this kid. Again, I love the editing here. You can actually see the butcher rise up to slam down the hatchet on that fish. Cuts to him chopping that fish. Great editing style. And then things get weirder. Lilly starts seeing stuff. People start like cocking their head, peeking from around corners. And I just want to say, like, from an in-universe perspective, who's that for? So you're a billion-plus-year-old eldritch cosmic horror from beyond the stars, and you're just making faces at kids while their back is turned. How is that going to induce fear? I know it's for us, for the audience to see that, and it builds suspense and horror, but it's kind of weird. She's walking, her back's turned, and people are looking out, and this goes back to the whole, what is Pennywise's powers? Is he possessing people? Did he shapeshift? And I think he might be this guy that's running behind her and being a bit of a goof. I think that's him disguised as a person. This isn't an illusion or possessed person. It just has the look on the guy's face, and how long it goes on for just kind of leads me to believe that this is Pennywise right here. And if that's the case, then yeah, he can disguise himself as whomever he wants. Also, did anyone else watching this at this point think that we're going to get another creepy birthing scene? Or is this just Andy Muschietti and the showrunners now the dangling that horrible rotting carrot in front of our face? Is it going to happen? Is it every time I see a pregnant woman now, I'm going to stay far away? So Lily's walking around. She's starting to hear things, and then she starts seeing things. She gets to the end of a aisle, which should not have an ending on it. You got the boxes of her dead friends on it, which they look like they were based off of the Kellogg's cornflakes boxes. It says Pennywise there. Even the font that they used for Pennywise's name is reflective of the Kellogg's font. Something else too, in the bowl, what you have three, I think those are strawberries. Pennywise has 3 deadlights. Maybe that's a loose connection. Three of three. It's possible, but then you look at the actual Kellogg's advertisement, the boxes from the time frame. Yeah, they also had they weren't an identical shot for shot, but they also had 3 strawberries in them when they were present. The one kid there is not decomposing. Some people speculate that it's because he's not dead. No, I think they're dead. I think they're all dead. I'd be very surprised to find out if that kid was still alive. But if it was, like, kudos for those that are guessing that he's alive. I think he gone. He did. Now we come to the most horrific scene of the whole show. Horrific for me, anyways, because, full disclosure, I hate pickles. I hate everything about pickles. I hate the smell. I hate the taste. I hate the texture. I think that every metric you can judge a food on, pickles fail it. I think pickles, I'll just say it, I think they have wicked souls. And if you're a pickle eater out there, I think you need to really relook at what you're eating in life. Lily is now stuck in my nightmare scenario, surrounded by pickles, and she can't get out. And this is important because, in case you forgot, her dad worked at a pickle plant. He got chewed up by the machinery. Lily thinks that it was her fault. Now, I saw that some people suspect that Pennywise was the one that caused that accident. I don't think so. I actually think that accident is what caused Pennywise to wake from his hibernation. If you look into the lore of Pennywise and his hibernation cycles and what wakes him up, it's either a mass casualty accident or some sort of very tragic event, and something like people getting chewed up in machinery. Like, this happens. You don't need an eldritch clown horror demon from beyond the stars to accidentally start up a machine because some people were too lazy to turn it off. Like, this, it happens. I think as a result of this accident, Pennywise woke up because it happened a year prior. You think that there would be a whole bunch of other missing kids stuff. Why would Pennywise target Lily's dad in order to send her to an asylum, then just leave her there without actively terrorizing her there the entire time? Because this asylum is within the boundaries of its influence. We've seen him use people from the asylum before. So to me, it makes no sense that this would happen. And I think it woke up Pennywise, and it slowly takes a little while to get the engines running, to start killing some people. By the time it gets going, it's now come back to Lily. It knows about her fears. We've already been given some exposition from her about what happened to her dad, but I want to take a little bit further because Pennywise uses our fears against us. It uses the fears that these kids have. Look at Ronnie. Her mother died during childbirth. It's a very real fear and guilt that Ronnie carries with her. So it exploited that during the entire attack. At no point did Ronnie's mother try to, I don't know, make out with her daughter like the pickle monster did. So this brings me to my next point, and I think Lily was a victim of being molested by her dad. Here's why. Lily smashes the pickle jars, a whole bunch of them fall down, and then bits and pieces of her dad form together to make a facsimile of some sort of weird Cthulhian pickle octopus monster thing.
Boom! Big reveal. I'm a pickle. What do you think about that?
It's actually really disgusting. And then this creature tries to kiss her, which if you've ever had someone eat pickles try to kiss you, that's disgusting enough. If it's one of your parents, that makes it even worse. Pennywise isn't normally using stuff that's not there. This illusion of her father as a chewed up pickle monster thing trying to kiss her, I think is one of Lily's fears because he molested her. She feels guilt over causing his death, maybe guilt out of relief. And on top of that, we have this.
You're not the only person to have something awful happen to them. The sooner you realize that, the better.
Some other clues that Lily's dad was a creeper is that when Maddie went to kiss her, she kind of recoiled as if that act itself is troubling to her. You can read into that however you want. Personally, I think it's because to her, being kissed on the lips has been a horrific experience for her because of her interactions with her dad. Lily's mother brought up visiting her dad's grave. Lily kind of started to recoil in a defensive position, almost going into like a fetal position. It's subtle, but it's there. So I think that there are some hints that her dad was a monstrous piece of shit. And if that's true, then I'm glad he got chewed up by a pickle machine. And because of her mother's statement, I think the mother was aware of it, but couldn't really protect her daughter. So now we're getting the last couple of scenes of the show, and we have General Exposition Shaw telling Major Hanlin why the military is there, digging for their stuff, what they're looking for, what they hope to use it against. They want to find a fear weapon to fight the Soviets, and they need Major Hanlin to collect that weapon. And then we have a quick cut of the fallout of Lily's freaking out at the market where she goes to Juniper Hill. I'm sure now we will have Pennywise in the next couple of episodes torture while she's in the insane asylum. They then cut back to that dig site, and I was getting some Jurassic Park vibes here. I don't know why. It just, the angles, the rain, the light, it was just, it reminded me of Jurassic Park. This is not an Easter egg, not a theory, not anything, just nostalgia. They uncover a vehicle from the 1930s that I want to say is a Ford Model B. I'm basing that off of the look and the way that the doors open like that. Not super important, but just worth noting. I'm pretty sure that is a Ford Model B and one of the vehicles that we saw in the opening credits. This scene shows us what happened to the Bradley gang. Who's the Bradley gang? How did they end up buried in their vehicle? Who knows? We sure won't, not until season 2, because that season is going to follow the story of the Bradley gang. So I don't think we're gonna find out much more about the Bradley gang, to be honest about you. I think this is about it. We're gonna get the next beacon, and then season 2, it's going to play into how they got there, who's in the vehicle, because we don't really know. We just know the vehicle belonged to the Bradley gang. So there you have it, my thoughts, opinions, and theories on it. Welcome to Derry, episode 2. Let me tell you that this show is well polished. It's great. I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes out of it in the future episodes. If you have your own theories, your own thoughts on it, please leave it below. If you agree with me where I think Ronnie's character is going, or the standoff between Major Hanlin, or if Will is going to be targeted specifically by Pennywise, or just any general theory that you have, please leave it in the comments below. And if we get enough of them, I will put together a video where we address each theory. Looking forward to it, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.